My prayer is that you will receive a man who loves you, not just wants to use you. But the unfortunate reality is some of you have already had to deal with that man who was just trying to use you. Some of you may be facing that situation as we speak, or you have a fear of it or concern for it, and you may be dealing with a guy who you're questioning, is this man just trying to use me? And it's understandable for you to have that question because it's happened to so many other women. And if you've gone through anything remotely close to that before, you're going to be a little bit more mindful, a little bit on guard about it. And I want to help give you clarity to bring some more peace of mind so that you can better understand if that's what's really going on here, or are your fears just getting the best of you? All right. So let me say this before I get into one of the first things for you to do if you think a man might be using you. I want you to really learn the difference between your intuition and fear. All right. And I'm not going to get too deep into it right now, but one of the biggest ways to tell the difference between intuition and fear is fear requires logical deduction. Fear requires you to break things down. Fear requires you to analyze things, okay? Intuition needs no logic, no analyzation. So to give an example of intuition, you could walk into a room, everything can look good, everything can seem awesome, but there's something in you telling you there's something wrong here. You need to walk away. You need to leave. That's your intuition speaking to you. And I think it's important for you to get more in tune with the intuition, with your spirit, so that you don't have moments where I've seen women letting their fear get the best of them and sometimes labeling it as intuition. But it's like, no. You came to a conclusion based off of thinking, well, this is the case because this person did this and that. And it's like, slow down, breathe, pray, listen within. And what is that telling you? So I just wanted to put that out there, but let's get to what you need to do if you think the man you're dealing with may be using you. And the first thing you should do is ask him for things. Hear me out. Hear me out what I'm saying, ask him for things. So understand that the goal of the user is to get more than what he has to give. All right? He's trying to get the most for the least. And so someone who's genuinely using you, typically, there's going to be some exceptions to the rule, but typically is not trying to step up in areas that you need his assistance and support. And a lot of women end up not properly evaluating a man's willingness to do for them because, one, they never ask, and two, because their mentality is, well, I don't have a problem doing these things. I'm such a loving, giving person. And listen, you may indeed be a loving, giving, nurturing woman, and that's awesome. That's amazing. I'm not in any way telling you to stop being loving, giving, and nurturing. What I'm telling you is to make sure you are pouring into someone who is willing to pour back into you. Now, we can't just assume he's unwilling if you never ask, if you never put him in a position to have to be there for you, step up for you, do for you. That's what's going to show you what's going on here. And I know for a lot of you ladies, you've become so conditioned to doing things yourself, to just handling your own business, to not having to lean on a guy, that not only have some of you gotten away from even asking, you don't even know how to receive in moments that he's offering. Okay. So I think one of the first steps you got to ask yourself is, before I start thinking this man might be using me, has he even offered me assistance at any time? And have I just declined? Have I just blocked the opportunity for him to pour into me? But he has shown a willingness to do that. But let me tell you, this is what's kind of hitting my spirit. You still want to make sure that even if he has offered, that there's going to have to come a point where you take him up on his offer, because some people, some offer believing and hoping you're going to decline. All right. They're like, all right, I can say I offered, so I'm in the clear, but actually didn't have any intentions on following through. So again, you can't expose that and what this man's real intentions are unless you allow him to have to follow through on the action. So I'm not saying you have to ask him for money or anything crazy, but find little things for him to do for you. It could be simple, small things. And again, if we can start there, if he can't do the simple, small things, we already know he ain't gonna do the big things. All right. And then we can work our way up. But ultimately, you've got to put yourself in a position to receive from this man. And you got to understand that if you struggle with both asking and receiving, you got to get to the bottom of why. For the most women, for the most part, it stems from, again, being let down in life so much. And so now you fear having to face another letdown, or you don't trust a man to be able to step up. And so you just do it yourself to save yourself the disappointment in your head. But you've got to understand that asking and allowing yourself to receive is a tool for one, seeing the seriousness of this man, but it also allows the relationship to be healthy, because the man who is serious, who isn't trying to use you, who is trying to love you, him doing for you is him being able to pour love into you. And when you are unwilling to both ask or receive, you're blocking his ability to give you that love. And that starts to create its own issues within the relationship. And in some cases, you'll have some men feel like, well, I'm just not even needed here. There's no value I can bring to this woman. What am I doing? And end up leaving. Now, I'm not saying a man should just jump to that conclusion without talking to a woman and understanding why that has been the case, and seeing if maybe this is a matter of her needing to work past these past experiences that have hindered her ability to trust a man in that role. But it does happen. So I encourage you to be willing to ask as well as receive. All right, so now another thing you need to do, or you should do, if you think that maybe, just maybe, this man might be using you, is express how you feel, but do not accuse and attack, okay? So here's the thing. Your feelings matter. I believe everyone's feelings matter. And that's why I think it's important that when we're trying to have a healthy relationship, we don't dismiss each other's feelings, because that can be very hurtful, and it doesn't allow us to get to the root of the issue and understand how we can make things better, right? But in your feelings mattering, that means, yes, you should express yourself. You should let it be known how you feel, even though we understand, okay, maybe he's not using you. And it's very hard to just come out and express to someone, hey, I'm scared, or I'm wondering if you might just be trying to use me. But here's the thing. If you express it as, this is how I feel, not as in you are using me, I think you're doing this, you're doing that. That's the attacking part. That's the accusing part. When you do that, right, it is very difficult for anyone to be receptive to what you're saying, because human nature is, when we feel attacked, we go into defense mode. All right. And there's times where you can think about it yourself. Some of you may have experienced, you may have a situation where you actually did do something wrong, but the way the person is attacking you, you're still getting defensive. You're still trying to defend. And it leads to more deflection. It leads to arguments. It leads to just everything going left, rather than us having a productive discussion about how you're feeling and how we can rectify that. All right. And understand that if the man is serious about you, he cares about you, I'm not saying it won't bother or hurt him to hear that you feel like he might be using you, right? But he will have a stronger desire to want to show and reinforce that that's not the case. All right. So he's not just going to completely throw you away because you said you feel this way. He's going to be like, yo, like, why? What am I doing to make you feel that way? Or what could I do differently to fix this? You know what I'm saying? But it's not just going to be, oh my gosh. Or if he does have an initial bad reaction, he'll come back to earth and be like, you know what? All right, let me hear you out. Boom, boom, boom. To me, if he can't do that, whether it's he's not that serious enough, or it may be he's not emotionally mature enough to handle those types of discussions. But either, and you can say to him, if your concern is this ruffling feathers, if you're wrong about the potential that he might be trying to use you, you can say before you start the conversation, hey, I want to talk to you about this, but I don't want you to be offended. I want you to understand I'm not accusing you or attacking you. I'm just expressing to you how I feel. All right. And that sets the stage for him to be more mindful of how he reacts and how receptive he is to you in that moment. Here's the other thing, though, about expressing how you feel, even in situations where you think he might be using you or something. People are always going to have a harder time doing what's being called out. All right. So I always say when you're concerned about something happening, kind of what we just explained in the example of laying out the groundwork before you express yourself. If, for example, you don't want someone to yell and scream when you're about to tell them something, I always say, okay, call it out first, because it makes them second guess doing what you just called out. Nobody wants to prove you right. So if you say, listen, I want to tell you something, but I don't want you to scream and yell. Now, listen, are there some people who are still going to scream and yell? Absolutely. And depending on the situation, they may feel like they're totally validated in that. But it does increase the chances of someone not doing what you just called out. So in asking and expressing yourself about feeling like you're being used, what it will do in many cases, at the very least, is make that man be more mindful of what he does or how he behaves around you that has made you feel this way. All right. It will make, or if he is trying to flat out use you, it might have him thinking, you know what? She's on to me. In that moment, he's not going to say, yeah, I was trying to use you. He might be like, no, it's not like that. But then you might see him basically start to drift off afterwards, basically separate from you, because it's almost like the jig is up. He knows you're already seeing what's going on. So he's got to abort the mission, so to speak. So with that said, it's always good to just express how you feel, how you honestly feel, but do not attack or accuse. All right, so let's keep this thing going. Another thing for you to do, if you think that man might be using you, is to express to him what you need from him moving forward. All right. So we talked about you expressing how you feel, expressing your concerns of being used, and maybe the word is not going to be used for some of you. For some of you, it might be you feel like you're being taken advantage of, or you feel like you're being taken for granted. Right. And sometimes that can translate into feeling used. OK, but either way, however we want to phrase it, it kind of all boils down to a similar thing, if not the same thing. And so in expressing yourself and expressing those concerns, the next part is now saying what you need from him moving forward, because there has to be something in your mind that says, OK, if this was happening, I would not feel like this. Okay, if I was receiving this from him, I would not feel like this. And so in expressing that, you have to also be prepared to possibly get very specific, because what I see a lot of times happen is, let's say a woman says to a man, well, I feel like, maybe you're taking me for granted and I feel a little used because you don't ever initiate spending more time with me, or you don't ever initiate taking me out somewhere. Okay. Now to that man, it might honestly be, no, like I'm just not big on going out. But if I know that that's what you want to do, I'd make more of an effort. But I didn't realize it was a problem. And I don't do it because I don't think you're worth taking out. I'm not a big fan, and I love to stay home. And if you tell me you're cool with it too, I'm gonna stay home and chill and watch TV and hug up with you and all those types of things. So in saying to him, okay, you want him to take you out more, I think we got to go a step further. Now, he might ask flat out, well, what does that look like? Like how often you want to go out? And sometimes as a woman, you might say, no, I don't know, just take me out more. But in reality, you do have some kind of idea in many cases, not all, of what that looks like. Does that mean you want weekly date night? Does that mean you want him to plan more dates more often? Like, what does that actually look like? You want to try to be more specific with men. A lot of men, not all, but a lot of men are not the greatest at just trying to read a woman or understand what's going on in your mind, understand that men, again, not all, but many, aren't always as observant as a woman. So reading your body language, picking up on little social cues that tell them how you might be feeling, he may just genuinely be oblivious to those things. And it's something that he has not learned how to do. So you may feel like, well, he should be picking up on things so that he can understand what going out more or spending more time with me looks like. But in his mind, it's like, no, I'm just kind of throwing darts to the wall, hoping it sticks. But if you would tell me what it is, I could actually do it. Okay. But, with that said, if he is the user, and that's the great thing about being specific, is that if he is the user, you being specific won't matter. All right. At the most, maybe he'll take you out one time, but he's not going to keep up with trying to make sure you're good when his interest is just getting from you what he wants. So again, it helps. It helps. I mean, I want to be clear. Some men just struggle with certain things, and that's why we have to also, let me say, take an overall inventory of the situation. But you know what? I'm going to save that for a later point, but just understand that you need to express to him what you need to see from him going forward for you to feel more secure and not feel like he's using, taking advantage, or taking for granted. All right. So we got a couple more to go. And another thing you should do if you think a man may be using you is stop doing the things that make you feel used. Now, hear me out, because I don't want you to jump straight to cutting off what may potentially actually be good behavior, good actions. Okay. I want you to first ask yourself, what are the things that I'm doing for him that make me feel this way? And why? Because again, am I feeling this way because I'm doing things that I'm very uncomfortable doing? Or am I doing these things, or am I feeling this way because though I'm doing these things, I'm not receiving what I need from him in return? Because if it is a matter of I'm not receiving what I need from him in return, and that's making me feel used, then we must first address him pouring back into you. So talking about the things that we mentioned earlier, asking for things, discussing what you need, being very clear, and seeing if he's willing to make those adjustments and step up to the plate. Okay. But if you are feeling this way because what is being asked of you makes you feel uncomfortable, and that makes you feel like you're being taken advantage of, or whatever the case may be, then we have to be honest about that. We have to be honest with that man about that it does make you uncomfortable, why it makes you uncomfortable if you have a grasp of what that reason is. And maybe we just need to stop those things. Now, let me say this. If the things that make you uncomfortable are things that are extremely important to him, right? So let's just say this is a situation where he's been good otherwise, but there's a disconnect in this specific area. And you no longer feel comfortable doing these things. This may put you in a position of having to talk and realize maybe we're not best for each other. Because if I cannot be comfortable pouring into you what you need, then how can we sustain a long-term successful relationship here? It's not going to work. And so a lot of people sometimes try to fool themselves into thinking I'm okay with doing this when in reality they're not. All right. And at some point it blows up in their face. At some point they can't keep it going. They can't keep it up. So it's important to be as honest as possible about that, about how you feel, right? And excuse me. And if it's something that maybe it's correctable, maybe you're uncomfortable with it due to certain little details about it that can be adjusted, maybe compromises can be found. This is why, again, at the key of all this is communication. We got to communicate, because sometimes these issues are just misunderstandings. For all you know, the part of that thing that makes you uncomfortable with it may be the part that he's like, oh, you ain't got to do that. Like, that's not an issue. That's cool. Stop that. That's fine. I didn't know you had a problem with it. Go ahead. That's easy. And it's not an issue. Like, he generally is okay with you not doing whatever that thing is or whatever that part of that thing is. So again, stop with doing the things that make you uncomfortable, but have a discussion, communicate, and see if it's fixable or is it just a sign that maybe we are not best for each other. All right, so now the next thing, I'm giving a bonus before the end. So there's actually another point after this, but I feel like I gotta add this extra thing right now, okay? And it kind of speaks to what we spoke about, but let's get into it. This is something that you should not do if you think for a second you're being used. And that is playing games or doing vindictive things or undermining the relationship in very unhealthy ways. So what I mean is this. I see a lot of women who sometimes it's not even the woman who was started with the idea of thinking he might be using me. Sometimes it's an outside influence, a friend, a family member, whoever. And sometimes it's coming from a negative outside influence. Someone who has very negative perceptions either of men or relationships. Maybe they're dealing with their own issues. And now they're projecting that onto you. And they're planting these negative seeds. And now you start thinking, oh my gosh, yeah, maybe he is playing me. And rather than addressing it, talking about it, going about it in a healthy manner, the woman reacts. And she reacts with maybe a bad attitude, right? And he doesn't even know what the bad attitude is about. Maybe she reacts with, okay, she's not just not doing the things that make her possibly feel used. She's stopping not doing things in general for this man. Like, she's just like, he's not going to take advantage of me. So I'm just going to like chill and let him just do everything for me instead. And it's like, even if that man was using you, how are you solving it by staying and playing a game? You're not. You're only creating more of a mess. And if he isn't trying to use you, if he's not on that time, now all you're doing is undermining what was a fixable issue and a potentially great, amazing relationship. So you really want to be mindful that you don't just react in the moments that you have these concerns, and that you're careful of who you're taking counsel from, who you're getting advice from. And you want to make sure that whatever advice you receive, it's guiding you in how to handle things in a mature, healthy manner. All right. Game playing, tit for tat, none of that, all of that is pointless. It is absolutely pointless. You should not do it. Now, what I want to add to this bonus point before we get to the last big one, it's important that to help you not react and start to pour negativity into the situation, you got to take a step back and always look at the overall situation. You have to take a look at the bigger picture, okay? Meaning, all right, maybe he did something in a moment or has been doing something that's making you feel used, taken advantage of, taken for granted, right? And there's a legit concern, a legit issue here. However, if everything else about this relationship is good and he's been doing what he's supposed to do, then there's no reason for us to jump to a negative conclusion first. That doesn't mean sweep it under the rug. That doesn't mean ignore it and just assume the best. No, it still needs to be addressed. There still needs to be a discussion. But we can give this man the benefit of the doubt because his overall resume has been strong. It's just this one area that has been a problem. On the flip side, you're feeling used. And when you look at the overall relationship, we can point to a bunch of different things that's the problem. I'm still not going to say just jump to the negative, right? But there's now more of a reason to believe if you did jump to just I'm out, it'd be more understandable, I'll tell you that much, because the overall relationship has not been good. The overall relationship has been a problem. So for example, you're feeling used, but on top of that, he doesn't communicate with you. He neglects you. He, doesn't show you proper respect, speaks to you all kinds of ways. Like, I'm just throwing out different examples. Like, that says to me, okay, there's a much bigger problem here. I mean, the feeling used is a big problem, but there's so much more to this. And you have to make sure that if you're going to address the feeling used part, you address all of it as well. All of it. Because a lot of people, what they do is they're having conflict in their relationship and there's multiple conflicts, but they're focused on the one that's staring in them in the face right now. And then let's just say they actually resolve that one, but the problem is the other 3 or 4 still exist. And then there's this feeling of, well, dang, we just had to talk about this and I feel like we're doing better. So I don't want to like cause more problems. I'll just leave those alone, or I'll wait longer before I speak on those things. And then by not properly addressing them, they start to linger. They become a bigger issue. And now we're back to square one and everything blows up. So you want to make sure you always are looking at the overall bigger picture, right? And if there's other issues that exist, all the issues have to be addressed. All right, and now last but surely not least, if you feel like a man may be using you, you need to be prepared to walk away. Now, the key word is prepared, okay? Because again, I am not telling you to just jump to the negative conclusion and react and just cut them off or ghost them or whatever the case may be. I don't want you to just attack them and accuse them. No, I want you to communicate. Because again, it's not to say that every situation will be saved by communication, but I've seen so many relationships that could have been saved by proper communication that didn't get that opportunity because people left that part out. Okay, so it at least is a way to ensure, because if he is bad for you, if he's not the right guy, if you ultimately need to leave, it will show itself even more in trying to have a conversation with him about the situation. All right, it will give you more to look at to say, okay, this is evidence that, man, this is probably not where I belong. So when I say be prepared to walk away, I say that in the sense of, many times as a woman, as human beings, there's a fear of addressing things because even though we're not happy, even though things are not what they need to be, we are afraid to lose the person. All right. We are afraid to walk away, be by ourselves, whatever the case, start all over, you name it. And that fear keeps people locked into situations they don't belong in. And that's why you have to have the mentality of, listen, I would love for this to be able to be fixed. I would love for us to find a solution. However, I am prepared to walk away if I am shown that this cannot be corrected. If I am shown more reason that this man is unwilling to do what is necessary to make things work. And I feel the need to say this, it's in my spirit. And you have to also be willing to. When you come to those conversations, expressing your concerns, I think it's very important for individuals in general, men and women, to open themselves up to any concerns that person has as well. Because sometimes what happens is you address that man, and in his fear of not wanting to lose you, he's like, okay, tell me what it is. I'm willing to do it. Boom, 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 boom. But in reality, there's an underlying issue that exists on your end too. And he may feel a disconnect from you. He may feel neglected, but now he doesn't feel like he can express it because he's like, I'm just trying to make sure she don't leave me. So let me not rock the boat. Same thing I just said about the woman. It's like, I don't want to make things worse. So I'm just going to sweep under the rug my concerns and issues and just focus on doing what she needs me to do to make her happy. But the problem is, if the issues are not addressed on both sides, we're going to find ourselves in this continuous cycle of there being a problem and we're just going around in circles and circles and circles. So I think it's very important, very healthy, if you are serious about having a healthy, successful relationship, is that when you address concerns and issues, you say, hey, do you have anything you want to address? Do you have any issues with me or concerns with me? And you've got to be willing to humble yourself in that moment to hear that man out and what he has to say and not react, not attack, not get offended. Hear him out and try to understand the same way you would want him to hear you out and understand you. But again, ultimately, you do have to be prepared to walk away. I always say, if you are in a relationship and your partner thinks that no matter what they do, you will never leave, relationship is done. It's not a good position to be in. No one should feel like, for those of you who may not be resonant or who may not be understanding what I just said completely, No one should feel like they can do you wrong. They can do nonsense. They can act a fool. They could drag their feet and not, pour into you the way they need to. And no matter what, you will stay, because many will never step up. They should feel like, as long as I'm willing to put in the work to do my part, doesn't mean we're going to be perfect. Doesn't mean we may not have moments of struggle, but we're not going to dwell there. We're not going to stay in a place of not trying to be better for each other. We're going to always strive to make progress, right? And I can trust that in always putting in the work and making the progress, you are willing to work with me. That's a beautiful thing. That's a healthy mindset. But the idea that no matter what, no matter the foolishness, you ain't going nowhere, that doesn't turn into beautiful relationships for the most part. All right. Some people may have gotten lucky. For most, they have gotten more damaged and drained and all these things. So you have to be prepared to walk away from these situations. And I got one more thing I have to mention. I kind of already mentioned it again earlier, but I'm going to say it again. Again, pray. Pray, pray, pray. Talk to God. Let him guide you in these situations. Let him guide you in any confusion, conflict, anger, whatever. Let God guide you. It's important that we lean on his understanding, not our own. So even in me giving you this advice, I don't want you just to take it and run with it. I want you to take it, pray on it, meditate on it, see if this really is for you, and then implement it. Now, am I confident in what I'm telling you? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I ain't God, okay? And I always want you to get your final say-so from God, because I've seen too many people lean on other human beings to the ultimate guidance that they need, when God can provide that for you. And let the people be confirmation of what God is pouring into you and trying to tell you. All right. It's not the other way around. He can talk to you, and then we can help confirm these things. But it can't be just leaning on what any of us has to say. So I just want to give you that encouragement. And I want you to understand that, listen, at the end of the day, there are bigger, beautiful, better things out there for you. So don't stay where you don't belong. Embrace the path you need to walk so you can receive what is truly for you. Hey, thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check this one out right here, and I'll see you there. In life, sometimes a man's exit out of yours is actually a blessing. And it may not feel like it at that time, but it could be exactly what you needed.